All right, today we're going to dive into this really powerful old story, a story about where real, lasting confidence actually comes from. It's about a young man named Arun who felt completely and totally worthless. And it's about how he turned his entire life around, not by changing who he is inside, but by changing what he did. Let's get into it. But before we get to Arun, let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a room, surrounded by people, but felt completely invisible? Like you were a ghost? Or maybe you've had that feeling where your words just seem to disappear into thin air and nobody hears you. Or worse, you're always the one giving, always showing up for people, but when you're the one who needs a hand, it's just crickets. If you've ever found yourself looking in the mirror and just thinking, why doesn't anyone respect me? Then yeah, this story is absolutely for you. So our story kicks off in this bustling city. There's a salt merchant, and he's got two sons. Now the father, he was a pretty practical guy, but his sons, man, they were like night and day. And that huge difference between them, well, that's really at the heart of this whole thing. Okay, so you had the younger son, Rowan. He was like the sun, just totally confident, full of life. He'd greet every single customer with this huge smile. And then you had Arun, the older brother. He was the shadow. I mean, this kid was so shy, he'd practically flinch if someone spoke to him. His voice was just this quiet, nervous mumble. And the thing is, the neighbors didn't just see him as shy, they thought he was foolish, and, they often took advantage of him because of it. And his father, whoa. He saw this quiet nature not as a personality trait, but as a weakness. And he would just scold Arun so harshly, right there in front of everyone. He'd yell things like, "Speak up, boy, what is wrong with you? Look at your brother, why can't you be like him?" I mean, can you even imagine hearing that day in and day out? Every single harsh word was like a hammer hitting glass. Over the years, Arun's confidence didn't just crack, it completely shattered into dust. And look, this wasn't just about feeling a little awkward at parties. This deep-seated lack of confidence was actively sabotaging every single part of Arun's life. In school, he knew the answers, but he was absolutely terrified to raise his hand. During exams, he'd just panic and fail. It got so bad that his frustrated father eventually just pulled him out of school and put him to work in the family shop. And you know what? Things only got worse there. He was basically trapped in a prison made of his own fear. You know how it goes in these stories? There's always that one moment, that one single event that changes everything. For Arun, this was his breaking point. This was the day his fear was going to cost him everything he had. So one day, Arun's all alone in the shop, and these cunning men walk in. They knew his reputation. They knew he was shy. They knew he was fearful. So they put on this really confident act and told him, "Hey, your father sent us. We're here to collect all the salt for a massive order in the city." You can just imagine it, right? There was this tiny little voice inside Arun's head screaming, "Ask for a note, call your father." But there was a much, much louder voice, and it was just screaming with pure fear. What if they get angry? What if they shout at me, just like Dad does? That fear of confrontation, it was way stronger than his common sense. He was completely paralyzed. He just nodded and watched them take every last bag of salt. And when his father got back and saw that empty shop, he just exploded. His face went red with rage, and he screamed, "You worthless boy, get out of my sight and never come back again." And that was the final blow. After a whole lifetime of feeling like he wasn't good enough, his absolute worst fear was just confirmed by the one person whose approval he wanted more than anything. Just completely crushed, Arun fled. He just walked and walked for hours until he ended up at the riverbank. And in that moment, he truly believed everything his father had said, that he was worthless, a total failure who couldn't do a single thing right, and believing there was absolutely no point in living anymore, he decided to end it all. But right then, just as he was about to jump, this strong hand grabs his arm. It was a wise old man who had seen the despair on his face. He sat and listened to Arun's whole story, and then he offered him just a single tiny glimmer of hope, a 3-day challenge, a challenge he promised would change his life forever. Okay. So the challenge was made up of 3 tasks that, for Arun, must have seemed completely impossible. First, go into the city and speak to 10 total strangers. Second, go to the local orphanage and teach the children something. And third, the most terrifying one of all, he had to go back and face his father. So, day 1. Arun was terrified, obviously. The first person he tried to talk to just ignored him. But then he thought about the river, and he just pushed on. By the end of the day, he'd actually spoken to 10 people. He was exhausted, sure, but he was also kind of surprised. He'd even made a few friends. Then, Day 2. He panicked again. I mean, how could he, this uneducated failure, teach anybody anything? But he just talked about the only thing he really knew: salt. And for 1 hour, those kids didn't see a failure. They saw a teacher. And that brings us to day 3, the final task. This was the big one. He had to go back and confront the very source of all his deepest fear and pain: his own father.
So Arun goes back home and he's trembling. But this time, something's different. He doesn't stare at the floor. He remembers the looks on the children's faces, how they looked up to him. He looks his father straight in the eye, and with a voice that's shaking but is somehow clear, he says, "Father, I failed you. I was afraid. I am sorry." No excuses. He just owned it. He just stated the truth.
Well, his father was just stunned. He had never ever heard his son speak with such simple, direct strength. It wasn't just the words, it was the way Arun was holding himself. He saw a real change, a new kind of strength in his son's eyes. And in that quiet moment, he decided to give him one more chance.
Arun rushed back to the old man, totally energized, begging for the secret to confidence. And the wise man just smiled and said, "You've already discovered it." He explained that Arun's biggest enemy was never his shyness, and it was never really his father. It was the story he was telling himself every single day, that belief that he was foolish and weak and worthless.
The old man broke it down for him. He said, "People don't really see you. They see the way you present yourself to them." You see, those 3 tasks weren't some kind of magic spell. They were just practice. They forced Arun to act out a brand new story. By talking to strangers, he was practicing being curious. By teaching those kids, he was practicing being an expert. And by facing his father, he was practicing being accountable. He didn't wait to change his feelings first. He changed his actions, and the feelings of confidence, they just followed.
So, what does Arun's whole journey mean for us, right here, right now? This ancient story isn't just some old tale. It's practically a blueprint. It shows us how to move from telling ourselves a story of fear to living a reality of confidence.
And what happened to Arun? Well, years later, that shy, trembling boy became a renowned businessman. He was respected by everyone, not just for his success, but for that quiet, solid confidence he had built, one single action at a time. He never let that old story win again. And this really brings us to the most important takeaway of all. Self-confidence, it's not some trait you're born with. It's a skill. It's something you build, just like Arun did, by taking one small and often terrifying action at a time. It's through that courage and that persistence that we can totally transform ourselves. Which leaves us with one last, pretty direct question. Arun thought he was born to fail, but when he actually faced his fears, his entire life changed. The world sees us the way we choose to present ourselves through our actions. So, what about you? What's your day 1 task? What is that one small step you can take, maybe even today, to start building the person you really want to become?